On the continent of Europe, we've yet to make sure that the simple and honourable purposes for which we entered the war are not brushed aside or overlooked in the months following our success.
In front of Buckingham Palace, Londoners are waiting to catch a glimpse of the royals. They are celebrating the end of the bombing raids spent in the subway shafts, the end of Hitler's incendiary wonder weapons, the end of blood, sweat and tears, and terror. They cheer their monarch, who refused to leave London even at the height of the attacks. Group portrait of the royal family with the Prime Minister.
On May 15, 1945, Hermann Göring poses for an Air Force film camera near Augsburg. For more than a week, the obese Reichsmarschall has been under arrest. He's still convinced that US Commander-in-Chief Dwight D. Eisenhower will shortly receive him. Soon afterwards, Göring is taken to a transit camp for German war criminals and tried by an Allied war tribunal. In 1946, he's sentenced to death by hanging. Only hours before his scheduled execution, he evades death on the gallows by taking a cyanide capsule.
268 death sentences against German war criminals are carried out in the American zone alone. In the town of Bruchsal near Heidelberg, a convict in the so-called pilot trials takes his final walk. Fanatical Nazis who murdered downed US pilots in violation of the Geneva Convention are called to account for their crimes.
On June 24, 1945, the Soviet Union officially celebrates its victory over Nazi Germany with a parade on the Red Square in Moscow. For days, Red Army soldiers have rehearsed the ceremony of presenting war trophies to their ruler. In 1941, Joseph Stalin had issued his call to arms for the great patriotic war against the invaders, and he had won it shoulder to shoulder with the Allies. More than 20 million Soviet citizens lost their lives in the process. The victor of Berlin, Marshal Gregory Zhukov, receives his soldiers' homage mounted on a white horse. This victory has firmly placed the Soviet Union among the major powers. Stalin is fully resolved to extend his sphere of influence to include all of Europe.
On July 14, 1945, the new American president, Harry S. Truman, arrives at Gatow Airport in Berlin. He is welcomed by the Soviet's Deputy Foreign Minister, Andrei Vyshinsky. The victors will deliberate Germany's destiny at the Potsdam Conference. Already, the distrust between the Allies is greater than their common interests.
The German journalist Ruth Andreas Friedrich still has hopes for a unified, democratic Germany. If they understand and forgive us now, we'll give them everything they want, everything. We'll forswear Nazism, we'll prefer the new to the old, we'll work hard and harbour no ill will.
American camera teams eagerly explore Soviet-occupied Berlin. Hitler's bombed-out chancellery. the faces of those who won the final battle against the Third Reich.
For several days now, the British and the Americans have taken control of their respective sectors. But Berlin is not a divided city, not yet. Ruth Andreas Friedrich notes in her journal in July 1945, "Never before were we so ripe for redemption and so tired of terror, fear and injustice. If only the victors keep their promises to us."
Photo opportunity at the end of one era and the dawn of another. Truman, Stalin and Churchill at the Sicilienhof Palace Gardens in Potsdam. It is the last gathering of the former wartime coalition. There is no longer common ground to erect plans for peace. A short year later, Winston Churchill will speak of the Iron Curtain that has descended to divide Europe. The Cold War blasts the hopes of many.
But World War II is by no means over. The Japanese are still maintaining their fierce resistance. The Soviet Union is ready to declare war against the Nippon Empire and forging plans for an invasion that are never to be implemented. While still in Potsdam, the American delegation learns of the successful testing of an atomic bomb. US President Truman doesn't hesitate for long.
On August the 6th, 1945, an atomic blast destroys Hiroshima. 3 days later, an Air Force cameraman films the explosion of a second bomb over Nagasaki. Japan capitulates unconditionally. World War II is brought to an end by a weapon of inconceivable destructive power. From this moment on, mankind has the potential to annihilate human civilization, along with its entire history.